Well, I think I think like most entrepreneurs, we are really, really good at focusing on, the area of business. And I was really good at it. I just went all in on business and I worked very aggressively in my practice. I was there early and I left late. And, I got there before the front desk girls got there, and I stayed there after they left. And I was calling patients, and I was working on my lunch hour. And consequently, I started making some money. And the challenge with that is that my focus was in one of the areas of my life, which was entrepreneurship. And it was not in the other areas of my life, like my body, my relationships, fun, etc.
Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve.
Welcome to episode 150 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And as always, if you are a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And if you are a network marketer, business coach, online entrepreneur, and you are still building your business through the primary means of Facebook and Instagram, and you are not yet harnessing and leveraging the power and potential that LinkedIn can have on your business, your bank account, and your impact, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can fill out a form to schedule a free 15-minute call with me where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we could potentially work together. So I'm always excited to interview my guests, but when I have a really dear friend on, it just kind of takes on a new meaning. And I had the honor of being on his podcast earlier last year, and it was one of the first podcasts I was actually ever on, and he gave me the amazing opportunity, and I've been trying to get him on since. And he travels a lot with him and his beautiful wife and daughter, so it's been fun watching him grow, not only as a professional but as an individual. And I have so much admiration and respect for this man. And he's got such a powerful story, and he's so good at what he does that I don't want to take up any more of the time just gloating about him. I want him to share his story and himself with all of you guys. So Rob Murgatroyd, welcome to today's episode.
Well, with that introduction, I better not let down. I am so freaking excited to be here, and I love the work that you're doing. I'm learning so much about this new website called LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's on the interweb. It's a really amazing tool.
www.
Yeah, it's the interweb. So anyway, just so grateful for you, and it's so much I've learned from you over the years of you and I knowing each other. And I remember just a funny story, because when you and I reconnected, I remember we were actually going surfing, and it was actually the first time that I was going surfing. And it was, Kim, yourself, me, and the group that we were with. And I was looking at this guy with the most perfect hair, and I'm like, I know I remember this guy from somewhere. And I remember we spent like the whole morning together. We went out for margaritas and nachos after. And I turned around to you and I said, I know how I know you. I said, you were at an event that I was at for a network marketing company, and you went on stage and you were just dropping F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. And you're like, yes. And I'm like, oh my God. Because I remember watching that, and I'm like, this guy's awesome. And I if I ever get the opportunity to meet this guy, I can't wait to meet him and say how much I loved him and what he did. And that's how kind of like the 6 degrees of separation happened. And as we move forward, we ended up getting into a mastermind together. And I'm just so grateful for everything that I've learned from you personally and professionally. And you're just a man. And I
Well,
love you.
listen, I am so grateful that I got I got to show the absolute worst part of my personality on stage in front of everybody. But look, you're a Jersey guy, right? It's very difficult to take the New York out of the kid, and I try wherever I can to be myself. And sometimes I learn lessons. And one of the lessons if they could have had one of those big candy canes like they pull people off a stage back in vaudeville days, they would have the leaders of the network marketing company would have pulled me off of the stage because they were in the wings dying, and I was just trying to do me. And I had a lot of people who came up to me and were like, dude, that was amazing, I had such a great time, you made me laugh, you were so real. And at the same time, I equally had the company very, very upset with me. But I learned that you need to play to the middle of the country. Not everybody is as accepting as that is. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. So you have a you have a health and wellness background even prior to network marketing. You spent a number of years in chiropractic. So let's talk about the entrepreneurial journey that you went on, because you were an entrepreneur, you still are. You had your own business, and now you still do. But let's talk about what you learned in the beginning phases when you were obviously building your chiropractic practice, and how diverse it was, and how those lessons that you learned really transcended to everything that you and your wife are doing today.
Well, I think I think like most entrepreneurs, we are really, really good at focusing on, the area of business. And I was really good at it. I just went all in on business, and I worked very aggressively in my practice. I was there early and I left late. And, I got there before the front desk girls got there, and I stayed there after they left, and I was calling patients, and I was working on my lunch hour. And consequently, um, I started making some money. And the challenge with that is that my focus was in one of the areas of my life, which was entrepreneurship. And it was not in the other areas of my life, like my body, my relationships, fun, etc. And I wound up 40 pounds heavier. I wound up developing something called a mitral valve prolapse, where I started getting like chest pain from stress. I wound up getting divorced. I was very disconnected from my daughter because I was just physically wasn't there. And I hit a point at some point over my career where I sort of had an epiphany. And the epiphany is, if I asked myself the question, one simple question: what is the evidence that I can point to of having my life well lived? In other words, where's the evidence that I'm living my life well? And I really struggled with the answer to that question, because my business was good, but there were so many other areas of my life that just wasn't. And it became a journey for me to try and identify how I can work on all the other areas of my life simultaneously. And there are not many people who are good at this. They're not. There are people who are dominant in health and wellness. They're dominant in business. They're great, stay-at-home dads, let's say. But having it all together and working on all of those areas, there's not a lot of people, because it's difficult to do, and there's not a lot of there's not a lot of strategy in how to do it. And so when I started investigating, like, who's doing this well, I started realizing that there were some commonalities with people that were doing it well. And we could talk about what I've learned if you want. But it was
Please.
more
Yeah, yeah. What, like, lessons are so key.
okay.
And not to cut you off, but I think, there's a lot of people that listen to this that, are in the beginning phases of their entrepreneurial journey, but maybe they're in the weeds of it, or they're on the end of it and they're just kind of flatlining. So, any lessons that can be taken away from you and then obviously given back to the audience is essential.
Well, I think we have to first, sort of define what happens if you don't do what I'm going to describe. If you don't take care of your health, I mean, you don't need me to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to get sick. You're going to be overweight. You're going to not have energy, and all of the things that are related to that. And by health, let's separate it into two buckets. Let's call it physical health and let's call it mental health. And then there's the area of your business, and you don't need my help there. Most entrepreneurs are very, very clear about the business that they're in, and that's an area that they generally don't need a lot of help with. And then there's the areas of relationships. What happens with relationships? If you don't take care of your relationship, I don't care if it's with your significant other or your children, your friends, your extended family, close family, you're going to have an effect in your life as a result of it. And the last area is play. If you don't take the time to do fun things, hobbies, surfing, guitar lessons, learn about wine, classes, learn a language, those kind of things, then you're not going to be sharpening the saw. So I recognize that each of these areas are interrelated. In other words, if you don't take care of your health, it affects all the other areas. If you don't take care of time off, time to recharge, it's going to affect all the other areas as well. And so we delude ourselves, I think, as entrepreneurs, where we say, well, I'm in the season of my life where I need to focus on my business. And the delusion is there, I think, because, you have a big goal that you want to accomplish. I want to make $1 million. You make the $1 million, and all of a sudden that milestone moves to 2 million, it moves to 3 million, and you're always in that season. And, you're always adding another project, and you're always adding another thing, and somebody's always teaching you something else. And there's sort of like this entrepreneurial ADD that happens. And before you know it, all these other areas of your lives are affected. So what I teach, whether I'm coaching it or whether I'm taking people around the world with me on my high-end masterminds, that there are 4 containers, 4 buckets that you put your life in. First one is your health, mental and physical. Second one is your business. Third one is your relationships, your family, significant other, friends, etc. And the last one is play. And if it doesn't fall in one of those 4 buckets, and you could define the buckets however you want for yourself, but if it doesn't fall in one of those buckets, then I don't do it. And if it's in one of those buckets, I do it. So I'm always looking for tips, tricks, strategies, and techniques, like I have with the podcast, where I interview people on what are you doing that's unique and different to help me in the area of health, and what are you doing in the area of business. And so, I'm always looking for a shortcut, a hack, a way that is unusual, that's going to allow me with a simple amount of time and effort to up level that area of my life so it improves all the other buckets. Make sense?
Absolutely, like 100%. So there are these 4 buckets. You've been in entrepreneurship for a long time, and you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I know this may be a loaded question, but from the people that you personally coach, the people that you have in your mastermind that's in person and even online, is there a bucket that you're finding that is hardest for people to fill and actually embrace or enhance their life with?
Yeah, there's one bucket, and that's play. It's the
Why?
hardest thing.
Why?
Because it's the opposite of where they're strong. Where they're strong is business, and where they're strong is entrepreneurship. So their natural inclination, their defaults, energy, their mental bandwidth, the books that they choose, the conversations that they have, the friends that they want to be around, they surround themselves with big goals and everything that relates to something that they're strong in. It's kind of like, you're in the fitness world, right? In one way, shape, or were, more specifically. And, it's like the guy who goes to the gym and keeps doing bench presses, because it's not that hard in his body to do anymore because he's good at it. And it's his default, he does the default workout because it's what he knows, and it gives him the pump that he likes, and it gives him the big chest that he's after. And it's much more difficult for him, let's say, to do something like legs, right? Because it's a whole different animal, or to do plyometrics because it's a whole different. So it's not comfortable and easy to do. And the reason why another significant reason is because they don't view play as having value. So, if you work a full 8-hour day today, you're going to be doing, you'll personally be doing podcasts interviews, coaching calls, talking to people about LinkedIn, etc. At the end of the day, you'll be able to ring the bell. You'll have your goals that you wanted to accomplish at the end of the week, and you'll ring the bell on those goals, and you say, I did it, right? You have a dollar goal that you want to accomplish for the year, and you'll say, I'm 75% of the way, it's 75% of the year is done, and I'm almost at my goal. And that's where all the focus goes. And if I, say, hey, throw guitar lessons into that, you're going to push back, and you're going to be like, I'm working on this goal right now to make X number of dollars. How is guitar lessons going to help me in any way? And so it becomes a mindset issue for me to work with people who are ready, and not everybody's ready. Not everybody's ready. I don't care if you're 60 years old, you'll view your latest project as the biggest thing, and you've got to get this thing done, the exit for your company. But some people are ready at, 30 and 40 years old, where they're like, you know what, I, I am working all the time. Like, I'm making money. Like, I got the house, I got the cars, I have money, and it's all I'm doing. Like, and for me, there were like little things that started to make me uncomfortable. As an example, this is going to sound really stupid, and I don't know if it's going to come across as making sense, but I remember one night going out to a restaurant with a buddy of mine, and he was talking about wine. And he said, I want to get a bottle of Barolo. I want to get some Italian wine, from the Barolo region, and I want the Nebbiolo grape. And that led into a whole conversation. And then he said something else, and they were talking about art. And I realized that I had devoted my entire life to chiropractic and to whatever business ventures I have. I never took the time to study about art or wine or anything other than business. And I felt so freaking inadequate. And I just decided that I was going to improve all of these identities that I have, because I don't think that the only identity we have is being an entrepreneur. I don't think that the only thing that we're interested in is business. I think we have other interests that are lying dormant, that are soul sucking, because we are not fulfilling the things in our life that are just going to make us happier and more fulfilled. That is not to say ignore entrepreneurship. It is to say add these other areas and make the time for these other areas with this one life you've been given.
So everyone knows that we're given one life, but yet there are so many people. And I love what Les Brown says. He says some of the greatest songs that were ever written are in the graveyards all around the world, because there are people that have these dreams, these desires, these goals, these aspirations in their hearts, and they never lean into it, and it never comes to fruition, and they take them to the grave with them. So for that person that's listening to this, Rob, that feels like and I can still relate to you, because I put in 65,000 hours of one-on-one personal training time in my career. And that's all I did. And I thank God every single day for network marketing, because it got me on this personal development journey, and it got me finally living a different way. So for that entrepreneur, that network marketer, that business coach, that human being that's listening to this right now, that feels like basically their job is their life, they are missing out on the world around them. They're missing time with their kids, with their spouse, their friends, their family, themselves. What is something that someone can do right now to simply start moving that needle in the direction of starting to live again?
Just use a simple framework that I gave you. Just open up a clean sheet of paper and draw 4 boxes. Put an H in the first box for your health. Put a B in the second box for your business. Put an R in the third box for your relationships. And put a P in the fourth box for play. And rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, where are you in each of those areas? In the area that you score the lowest in, start with that one first, because there's a reason why you're scoring that low. It's because psychologists call it a scotoma. It's a blind spot. You just are not focusing on the area for probably a multitude of reasons, like I mentioned earlier. And if it happens to be play, then start asking, use a Tony Robbins thing and start asking better questions, and start saying, okay, well, if I were to do one thing, just one stupid little silly thing today that helped me in the bucket of play, what would that be? And maybe it's getting on the floor and playing with your kids, like set a timer for 10 minutes. Maybe play means booking the guitar lesson that you've wanted to do. Maybe it's opening a podcast and listening to how to learn Italian. What does that look like for you? And if the area is relationship, and that, you and your wife, or you and your husband are like two ships that are passing in the night, and it's scoring the lowest, then what is one thing I can do today to move the needle in that bucket that's the lowest? And it might be to just write a 2-sentence note that you put, in the kitchen drawer that your spouse is going to open up, that says, "I love you and I'm so appreciative of you today." So it's create the framework. You don't need another book. You don't need another seminar. You just need these 4 little buckets, and just decide one little thing you're going to do. And you're going to wake up the next morning, and I promise you that area is going to feel great. And like everything else, you're going to build momentum, and that little thing is going to go from one thing to something that is bigger, and you're going to start identifying those areas.
So for you personally, when you started to kind of do this for yourself, among the many lessons that you've taken away from this journey, what's one that really stood out to you that's been really life changing in both business and personal life for you, from really applying what you're teaching?
To grow your business, you have to get away from your business. Your business is not going to grow by grinding. I love Gary Vee, right? He's talking about the grind, the hustle, like keep going until your eyes are bleeding out of your head. I get it. But honestly, there's a lot of sickness that's associated with that, both physical and mental. There's an addiction that's associated with that. And for me, when I stepped away from my business and I stepped out of the picture, and that doesn't mean like, go disappear for a year and ignore your business. It means a timed interval, whether it is a reset that's simple during the week, that you've got some rules around, I don't work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or I take an hour in the afternoon and I walk in the sunshine. I live here in Los Angeles, so I got a lot of it, so I could just take a walk. Or it's something like I need like a real break. I love brainstorming. I love being around entrepreneurs, but I want to do it in a different setting. And that's how the work hard, play hard thing we could talk about came about. So every 90 days, I have an actual physical reset. It's a big reset button where me and 20 entrepreneurs get on the plane and we go somewhere cool, and I create experiences for them that get them out of their day to day and put them into environments that are inspiring and are different, that allows them to get that entrepreneurial juices flowing and out of them, but in a different way, not sitting in the office, not on the telephone, not doing, the same mundane tasks over and over again that are associated, but getting away from it with other people and getting different perspectives. Like, you may not have, like I'm a dentist. I don't know much about being an online, I don't know much about being a network marketer, but I do know that when a network marketer approaches me in the dental office, that I just hate the way they do it. And so you start to have these conversations that are in completely different contexts with different people. So it's a little bit of a ramble there, but I hope I answered your question.
100%. So let's talk about the work hard player, because something that you assisted me with, because I've had my nose to the ground, in 2019, it was an epic year. And you and I were accountability partners in our last weekend out in California. And I was sharing with you the success that I was having, and you were sharing the success that you were having. But one of the big lessons that I learned from you when we spoke earlier in the year on a phone call, you said to me, you're like, if you want to go away, if you want to take a vacation, buy the plane ticket first, then figure everything else out after that. Because you can say you're going to go somewhere, but if you do not book that plane ticket, it's never going to happen. And I just want to thank you for that, because that's what got us to go to Jamaica and really give us that unwinding and that reset that Nancy and I needed when we were just working really, really hard in our business. And it gave us some time to really reflect and really just rejuvenate ourselves. So I just wanted to first thank you for that. And second, talk about how the work hard, play hard came about, because I know it came about from personal experience. And then obviously it's turned into this just magical thing and mastermind that you now do with people, going to some of the most incredible places on earth. So first talk about, how it came about with your own personal experience with Kim, and then obviously how that was turned into the mastermind that it is today.
Well, like the story I told you in the beginning, I started recognizing that I wanted evidence that my life was well lived, and I wanted to be able to point to it. So I started to document it, and I documented it we created this YouTube series called Jet Set Life, and we started shooting travel videos. It was a cathartic outlet for me that got me away from the practice, and people started asking me all kinds of questions about, hey, you going to Morocco, what's it like? And, so I just decided, we're going to shoot some videos and we'll put a 2-minute travel video up. So we started doing that. And what I started to notice is that what came out of that was, as I started to do it with some friends that were also entrepreneurial, I started getting ideas that I just wasn't getting when I was home. So, you know, um, we were in, I'll use Morocco as an example. We were in Morocco and it was during high tea, they call it there. And they create this mint tea and it's really just an incredible thing. And I remember right where I was, we were sitting in this riad, which is, like a hotel with a big square with a big open middle. And so you can see the sky. And I was talking to the owner of the hotel who would walk by, and I said, man, he was from Paris. I said, you got the world by the short hairs here. You got the number one hotel in Marrakesh. You're handsome. You got 2 beautiful daughters, a beautiful wife. Life is good. And he looked at me square in the eye and he said, we choose our life, no? And all of us sitting at that table, and it was probably 8 of us at this point, looked at each other, and it was like we had this epiphany that we choose our lives. And I can go on and on and on, literally. I could spend 2 hours with you talking about the takeaways from the trip. Then I started documenting these things. And so while I was on the trip, we started taking notebooks. And at the end of the night, we would all go back to our hotel and we would write down bullets of what we learned from each other during the day. And we're all in different industries. And then the last day of the trip, we started sharing some things that, that I had no idea that I taught somebody, and they had no idea that they taught me. And then one year, our mutual friend, Chris Harder, had reached out to me. And he said, hey, man, I saw that you are doing these trips. I'd love to take a trip with you. And I don't want to be, I don't want to put myself if this is inappropriate, but I'd love to come to Greece with you. My wife and I always love to see it. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And then, Chris is like the Pied Piper. When Chris came, then Lewis Howes came, and I can give you a bunch of other people that wanted to be a part of it. And so now I had 15 people, and I curated an experience for all of them in Greece that was not just like us sitting on the beach, but it was us doing unique and different things, going to this table at this restaurant during this sunset and getting on this boat at this time, going to this, island, meeting this person, and, la, la, la. And the end of it, they all said, why are you not, like, this is so valuable to people that are out there. There's so many people that are sitting in conferences, wanting to stick a needle in their eye because they're bored out of their minds. They're taking notes, but they're not using a lot of their notes. You're creating experiences that are changing people. Why don't you actually do this as a business? So I decided to do it. And last year was the first year. We did 3 trips. The first trip was Boston. The second trip was Greece again. And no, not Greece. Second trip was the south of France. Greece is this year. And the third trip was to Italy. And In Boston, we rented the Red Sox batting cages and we hit some balls and had a contest there. And we hired Tom Brady's trainer to train us at TB12 in in the middle of the year in south of France. We did a vintage car ride through the French Riviera and did a masterminding session in a castle. And then 2 months ago in Italy, we did things like truffle hunting and pasta making classes, etc. So that's kind of like the high level view of that experience.
But there was something interesting that you shared with me, that no matter how much money you make, no matter how much success that you have, it's really a challenge for these people to turn that off. And you shared something with me that days before all of the events that you were having in all of these exotic locations, people tried to get out of it, where they're
They
like,
still do.
well, like, I'm not coming. I can't go. So, for the audience to hear this, it's really important. So what's the mindset behind that person that's making multiple seven figures a year, but yet they can't shut it off for those 5 or 6 days where you're showing them something amazing? And obviously, when you do kind of shift that around and they end up coming, what's the end result from that?
Well, I mean, right, there's two parts to that question, right? The first part is what you mentioned with I'm not coming. So when I first did this, before it was a business, there was always the conversation I'd have with the group, and they'd be like, dude, I'm just like, I want to come to this. There's just no way I can make it. I can't make it. And I would always say to them, I don't want to hear it. I don't care. You have the money, find a way. And if something bad happens, it's, Tim Ferriss wrote a post called The Art of Letting Bad Things Happen. And the bad things that you think are going to happen, your business is not going to go away. You're not going to wind up missing an important letter that you had to be there for. The emails will just pile up. You'll be able to get them. And so we've always had a rule that no matter what, unless there's a life-threatening illness, no matter what, that we're going to go. And even with that rule, there was still the phone call of, I had like another doctor. It's like my associate in this clinic quit, and I don't have anybody to cover the office. And we always worked out ways around it. But it still happens now. I mean, like I would say 30% I will get within 3 weeks of a trip that people have paid a lot of money for, a lot of money. They will forfeit the trip and say, can't do it. I got too much going on. And that happens every single time. So that's the one side of that question. The other side of that question is why? Because it's a priority thing. They prioritize work over other areas of their life. And I have a group of people that don't do that, and they get it now, and they're like, no. This is more important than work, and I am going to do this. And they do. And then other people are still learning. And then what happens is the core group of the core people in the group start influencing the other ones. And, they start saying to them, look, come on, you could do it. Find a way. You're resourceful. Figure it out. Now, to answer the last part of your question, which is how do they change? Probably a good thing to do would be to look at the faces. If you follow my Instagram at Rob Murgatroyd and you watch some of the videos, or if you go on my my website, Work Hard, Play Hard, mastermind.com, you can watch the videos and you could see these super successful entrepreneurs that have had a camera crew following them around, and how their eyes are twinkling and lighting up and excited with the new experiences. And then you can watch all the comments that come in after that about how there's a lot of testimonials in the video too about, how people's lives have changed and how their business has grown and their relationships have gotten better. And, I've got people that don't work out that go on a trip with somebody that does work out and they influence them, and vice versa. People that are just working out too much and somebody's saying, relax, have a glass of wine. Let's talk about life.
I think something that's really cool that you and Kim did was you realized that obviously, yes, you're targeting high six-figure, seven and multiple seven-figure earners doing this elite mastermind that you have, because it's a very high level thing, but because it's a high level experience. But I think what was brilliant, which is what you guys launched at the end of 2019, which is your online work hard, play hard mastermind. So talk a little bit about that and who you've seen join that as far as, who that person is and how have they moved their business forward doing it in this online setting that you guys have created.
Well, I think that that there are some real economic challenges that are at play with different stages of life that people are in. And it was very, it was difficult because a lot of people aspirationally wanted to come on these trips with us, but economically they just were not in a place to be able to do it. But, there were lessons that I felt that we could teach them through a different kind of environment. So I created coaching and I started working with people with one-on-one coaching. And I realized that there were a lot of people just couldn't afford that either. It was just, it was outside of their realm. And then we thought about, well, what is it that, what's a way that we can make this affordable that we can help people? And so we were in Italy last month, and my wife said, what if we did something virtually where we took the elements of the masterminds? Obviously, you're not in Italy and you're not in person, but what are some things that we can do where we could, for a couple of hours every Saturday morning, get onto a Zoom call with people and help them to craft their goals for the quarter. It's only a 90-day program where we get real clear as a group on what each person's skill set is, what they're strong at, what they're not so good at, where they need help, get real clear on what their goals are, and create an accountability over a 12-week process where we check in with each other each week. And Kim and I are the moderators and the facilitators, offering advice and where we think we can help people. But really, the group is the magic in the virtual mastermind, where each person in the group, when they have something that they feel that they can offer the person, they're offering them. And it's really a true mastermind where collectively all 12, well, there's 15 people in the group, all 15 people in the group are helping each other to grow. And we're starting to see things like, for example, two of them today flew out to LA to go surfing. One's from Canada, and the other one's from Northern California. That's in the group. I'm sorry, one's from Minnesota, one's from Canada, and they just sent me a picture. They are connecting today, doing something that is outside of business, which is surfing. So that's what the virtual mastermind is.
So obviously you touched on something before you jumped into that, and it was the fact that there's a lot of people that are economically hurting right now. And you know I talk to people each and every day, each and every week, and there's a lot of people that want something more out of life. They want to travel more, they want more money, they want more experience, but just like you said, there's this monetary wall that they're at right now where they just can't afford it. What's some basic advice that you can give that individual that wants to do more? Obviously, they would love to be a part of any one of your masterminds, but what are some simple things that that individual can do to start living more, to obviously start living a more fuller life, and over time the mindset starts to shift and they start feeling and living a more fruitful and abundant life where things really start happening for them and to them? What's something that someone can do to get started?
Well, this is going to sound a little cliche, but I think people do this advice I'm about to give you wrong, and that is to create a vision board. But here's how I would do the vision board. I would do it very differently. I would do a vision board that was 90 days in time. I would spend the better part of a month with you and your significant other clarifying what the goal is, the big goal, the push goal, the stretch goal, whatever you want to call it, the big goal that you want to accomplish over a shortened period of time. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, but I wouldn't go beyond the year. And all of the clear pictures about what it is that you're after. And I would post that vision board in your kitchen. And if you like wine, I would have a glass of wine at night while you're cooking dinner. And I'd look at that vision board. And I would do it every single night. And it will become the center of your conversation while you're having appetizers before you have dinner, or a glass of wine before dinner, or whatever, salad, whatever your thing is, and do it every single night. And here's why those elements I think are important than just taking the vision board. Typically what people do is they put the picture of the house that's 35,000 square feet, $37 million on the ocean, and it makes its way eventually to your closet, and it winds up falling behind something in your closet, and then you never look at it, and you're not intentional about it. Clarity precedes momentum. Clarity precedes momentum. You have to be clear before you're going to have any kind of momentum. And the process that I'm describing to you, when you put the constraints of having a shortened period of time on it, and you do it with your spouse, like Kim and I right now are developing our vision board. So our vision board, before we just recently, Kim's my wife, before we moved to California, our vision board showed the yoga studio in LA that she was going to go to, the school that Sophia was going to be in, our 5-year-olds, me surfing, the neighborhood that we're living in, the coffee shop in the neighborhood that we're living in, etc. And that vision board was hung in the kitchen. And at first I was like, I don't know, I feel weird, like people coming over the house and seeing that. But then what happened is it became a conversation piece, and people started asking, well, what's that? And I'd say, well, it started with, well, you know, if we could pull this off and we make it to Hermosa in California, that'll be the school we want her to go to. And by the time the 10th person who came in my kitchen asked me about it, it was, that's Sophia's school. That's the neighborhood we live in. And it became a part of our lives, and it became very, very clear. And what it did, when we sat with a glass of wine, there's an unlocking that happens. If you go beyond 2 glasses, you get drunk, and it's ineffective. But if you have 1 to 2 glasses and really can keep it at 1 to 2 glasses, it unlocks the inhibition, where you're just happier and more chill, and you could dream blue sky thinking and get out of the constraints of it. And when you do it with your spouse, and you really are working towards doing this, if you if you have if your goals are not aligned, like for example, Kim and I are working on our next one now, and we've spent the first month not arguing, but debating over what that vision board is. Like, her vision and my vision were very, very different. And we've had to work together to find, like, what is it that we both want, and we're still redefining it. So right now I've got a little piece of paper that's on our wall in the kitchen that's scotch taped, and I'll pull it off tonight. We'll open a bottle of wine, and we'll sit there and we'll start talking it through. And we're, I'd say, about 85% of the way there. So I can go on and on about it, but you get the idea.
No, I mean, vision is everything, and that's, you need to have something that you're reaching towards. And Nancy and I got, in 2019, we got super specific. I mean, we wrote down exactly how much money we were going to make, how much we wanted to make, how we were going to do it, and what structure it was. And when you're crystal clear with your vision, your action will precede that, and you'll hit more goals than you realize. So, Rob, we're winding down with today's episode, and I really feel if people don't understand the importance of living right now, and really breaking their life down into those 4 buckets, the time is now. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. We have to start doing bigger things now to really have a bigger impact, not just on the lives of those around us, but on ourselves. Where can people find out more about any of your masterminds, whether it's the online or whether it's the full experience, and how they can connect with you on social media?
Workhardplayhardmastermind.com.
And that's everything right there.
There you go. It's all on there. There's all the everything that we've talked about will be on there. And I just want to say thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for the work that you're doing. You are by far one of the most generous, kindest, most helpful guys that are out there. And there's no doubt in my mind that the reason why you've achieved the level of success that you've achieved in such a short period of time is because of your openness to give for the sake of giving, and providing value at the level that you are providing it. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and I was just going to say the same thing to you because I look up to you not only as a friend but as a mentor and someone that is really pushing me, from afar to continue just living the best life. And I really want to honor you and Kim and the life that you're doing, but more so the life that you're showing Sophia. It's helping me as a parent and as a father show my son more too. So I just wanted to thank you for that. So before we sign off for today, Rob, what does success truly mean to you?
Doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, as often as I want.
That pretty much sums it up right there. I mean, what else are you going to say? That's doing what you want, when you want, with who you want, whenever you want. I mean, that's what life is all about. Brother, I am so grateful for you. Much love and gratitude for you. And thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of today's episode.
You got it.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please, if you could, take a screenshot of this and put this out on social media, whether it's on Instagram, you know where to tag me, and leave your thoughts and takeaways. And I really, really suggest you look to connect with Rob and what he's doing. So I just wanted to thank you guys again for taking the time to spend this time with us. So please enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.